Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. They cursed our VHS tapes and television screens for the better part of 2 decades, peaking around the late 90s and early 2000s before fading into silver and small screen obscurity, which allowed their younger and, in my opinion, much sexier sister to have a go. But I'm not here to talk about the twins' once prolific, or should that be horrific, acting careers, or even Elizabeth Olsen's gorgeous looks and cracking tits. Nope. Today I'm talking about PS1 games, specifically Mary-Kate and Ashley PS1 games. And yes, that was a deliberate plural because we're going to be looking at more than one. Magical Mystery Mall, Crush Course, and Winner's Circle. God help me. Now, I don't think you'll be surprised to hear me say, these are kinda crappy games. Sure, if you take into account the demographic these games are aimed at, which I'm told is real girls, as opposed to those pesky fakey girls, Crush Course is arguably the better game of the 3. None of them set the bar very high to begin with, however, and one could argue the only reason Crush Course fares better than the other 2 is because developers, N-Space, seemingly ripped most of its gameplay mechanics from a fairly successful game they worked on previously, Rugrats Search for Reptar. Not only is mini-golf a thing in both games, much to my annoyance, but even the objectives are the same, with Crush Course having you find pieces of a ripped-up note, and Search for Reptar missing puzzle pieces. But yeah, let's just make life simple by saying all these games belong in the toilet bowl. The premise for each, if the developers even bothered to include one, is uninspired, the voice acting is mediocre at best and ear-piercing at worst, and some of the minigames drag on for what feels like an eternity. Did I mention I wasn't a fan of mini-golf? So let's begin with what's probably the most well-known of the mouldy grape and ashtray games, Magical Mystery Mall. Before I could even start, however, the game helpfully informed me that my memory card in memory card slot 1 was full. Oh no! How will I save my progress and compete for higher scores with fellow Mary-Kate and Ashley fans? You're then treated to a pre-rendered cinematic, featuring changelings that have, somewhat unsuccessfully, taken on the form of the Olsen twins, and even get a glimpse at what this game has to offer. There'll be snowboarding, fashion, photography, minimum wage work, and of course, skinny white girl dancing. So the premise for Magical Mystery Mall is slightly odd, I have to say. The twins are enjoying a trip to the mall, all acted out with glorious voice work from the titular girls themselves.
Hey, check out the new jewelry cart. Girl, you still got the eye. Let's go see what they have.
They spot a jewelry cart with interesting little knickknacks on display and pick out a heart-shaped necklace, to which the owner of the cart arrives and sells it to them for dirt cheap.
Good day, girls. I see you found one of my most special pieces. Ugh, whatever. I'm not paid enough to do, this voice thing.
It's only after selling them the necklace that the owner tells them of its magical properties and warns them about the potential consequences of messing around with it.
For your information, you kind of have to be careful. Don't put those 2 pieces together since some of those gems are missing. I've heard strange things have happened.
But it was clearly together when they bought it? MK&A pay no mind to the owner's warning because they're knobheads, and as a result the entire world, or at least the shopping mall, is frozen in time.
Ashley, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. No kidding, Mary-Kate. I'm with you.
So, I see we didn't listen, did we?
We're majorly sorry.
What you have to do now is get the missing gems so then you can reverse the spell. Each one of those open stores offers kind of a cool challenge. And if you're successful, you'll get one of those lost gems. Clever, huh? Without the gems, you're stuck in the mall forever, with no money to buy a thing.
Why don't they have money though? I thought the entire issue was a frozen mall, not a lack of funds. Poorly written story aside, it's finally time to control the girls, or at least one of them. The other one tends to just phase in and out of existence and then suddenly appear right in front of you.
Give him that back, Jordan. Do you want to go steal a cracker now?
The mall is the main hub of the game, with portal entrances to minigames dotted about the place. There's not much else to say about the hub area, though whoever designed the shop exteriors clearly wasn't in an inventive mood when it came to naming them, with well-known store brands such as watches, books, and even sunglasses. Passing through one of the shop portals will greet you with a screen asking which twin you want to play as. Not that it really matters, as they both look the bloody same apart from their stupid outfits. There are 5 minigames in total, and I could safely say not one of them made me think, wow, I'd sure like to play that again. The first one I attempted was the photography minigame, no doubt the creepiest one of them all, in which Mary-Kate and Ashley stalk 2 unfortunate lads through a seaside town, in order to get photos of themselves posing with the cute boys to pretend they know them. Because that's a good life lesson to teach real girls, isn't it? If you truly love someone, you must stalk them relentlessly, snapping photos of them without their consent. The minigame is split into multiple rounds and takes place across various areas. You've only got a small amount of film at your disposal, so you'll have to use it sparingly, with quality over quantity being the key, though quality is a very loose term given the twins and cute boys' faces tended to melt and morph before my very eyes. At one point, I genuinely couldn't decide whether a photo of pig-faced Ashley or Ashley having a stroke was the better of the two. Special guest appearances from Waiter with No Hands, the Cardboard Cutout Squad, and my personal favourite, equally stalkerish Afro dude with a boombox.
Move, children. Vámonos. Oh!
The next minigame I tried my hand at was the snowboarding competition, but given I had just spent over 15 minutes stalking 2 sentient polygonal potatoes, I was already close to calling it quits. Luckily I got through this one with no issues, but only because it was incredibly easy to do so, with little to no challenge from the opponent I chose. They have these speed, skill and balance stats, but they appear to make next to no difference during gameplay, and I ended up choosing Jeff Rocket here as my opponent, simply for the fact he had the most hilarious voice lines.
Let's rock and roll. See you at the bottom.
It took me 10 minutes to finish in total, which admittedly doesn't sound too bad. But bear in mind there's only 3 racetracks, with each one repeated either 2 or 3 times, or possibly more depending on how awful you are at the minigame. And there is nothing to do on these tracks except get from point A to point B. There are no pickups to give you an advantage or impede your opponent, no real obstacles to tackle apart from a few sharp turns, and even with Mary-Kate exclaiming,
Whoa, I almost wiped out. Whoa, I almost wiped out. Whoa, I almost wiped out.
not once did I actually do so. And so it was on to the third and final minigame before I threw in the towel, White Girl Simulator. This is undoubtedly the worst of the bunch, not only because of how long it takes to finish, but because the requirements for completion are so strict, you'll have to repeat it more than a couple of times before you nail the routine. The goal is to pick out some dance moves for the twin of your choosing, and there's something! You then set your skinny white girl monstrosity loose upon the stage along with a bunch of backup dancers that include the cute boys from before, and it's your job to work the camera and special effects to make a truly unique music video. Except I never accomplished that goal because for the life of me, I couldn't work out how to better my scores in each category. For example, if I operated the camera too much, I'd lose marks for making very quick transitions. Something that irritated me greatly as I frequently changed camera to match the beat of the music. Operating it too little, however, wouldn't net you enough points to make the producer happy, and you'd ultimately fail and need to retry the minigame all over again. Given you have to sit through the same routine for almost 2 minutes on each attempt, mashing buttons in the vain hope to get a high score, and you are guaranteed to fail the first, second, and probably third time, I decided I wouldn't be fixing them all after all, and quickly moved on to the second torturous game of the day, Crush Course. Now, this one was certainly the more fleshed out and interesting of the 3 games, but like I said before, that's not saying much. You're once again treated to a slightly off-putting pre-rendered cinematic, showing us the location of the game, Bullbag High School, and featuring beings that don't quite come across as human. It looks like MK and A got surgery and a makeover after their eventful trip to the mall too, as they both now sport puffy shiny cheeks, thick Botox lips, and hideous yellow blonde hair. Also, their expression doesn't change once during this entire cinematic. Either it really is Botox, and too much of it at that, or they genuinely aren't human. Entering the main menu screen, you can see we have the option to meet the boys. Let's just hope they're better than the cute boys from last time. Oh dear. I don't think we'll be meeting any more boys today. I decided to check out what the other options were before starting a new game, with play activities offering me 1 player or mini golf. Odd choices, but given I'm not a fan of mini golf, I chose to avoid that one and see what 1 player had to offer me, and promptly ended up in a mini golf game anyway. God damn it. So, starting a new game will give you the premise to crush course, but before that you need to dress the girls for school, all while they pick their bum holes and stare bewilderingly at the mirror, as if they've never seen a reflection of themselves before. We arrive at Balls Deep High and are given the setup for this riveting game, once again acted out in spectacular fashion by the girls themselves, as well as a few extras.
So, what are you wearing to Saturday's school beach bash? I don't know. I'm thinking of buying a new bikini. Hey, what's all the commotion over there? I don't know, but it looks like our lockers might be involved. Please don't tell me that Taylor is over there. I'd like to tell you that it's not, but it is.
I didn't see it all. Well, I did see part of it. Oh, I can't believe she did this.
Get a grip, Taylor. Let's go through the who, what, where, and whens.
It all happened so quick. 1 minute, there was this note on your locker, and the next, well, Courtney was tearing it into pieces all the way down the hall.
Hey, Mary-Kate. We hope school be Saturday B. Well, we know it was written to me, and it looks like it might have to do with someone hoping to meet me at Saturday's big school beach bash. Could it be Brandon? The captain of the football team? No, I have it. What if it's Brett? His videos are the coolest.
You know, if you're that thirsty for some dick, you could just ask the boys who wrote it. So, you finally get control of one of the twins, and it's pretty much Magical Mystery Mall reskinned, except they look like they're on a fucking mission with the speed they're going at this time around. Before I get into the meat of this game, however, I'll just mention that the camera is bloody atrocious. It's one of those cameras that pressing L1 to recenter it on the back of the twin will suddenly cause said twin to do a 180 and run in the complete opposite direction you were intending to go in, so that's fun. The goal of Crush Course is to complete a series of mini-games, no award for guessing that one, in order to obtain pieces of the note Courtney ripped up. Some areas are locked off until you complete certain mini-games, so you'll have to start in the freshman hall for the first few. Before you enter any classroom to start a minigame, however, there are usually 1 or 2 people standing outside who you can spark a conversation with or listen into one. Not that it's really worth it, because they often just talk about random teenager bollocks that I couldn't care less about. Badly acted at that.
Hey Vanessa, are you and Curtis going to the beach bash?
Yes, it should be really cool this year.
And if the subpar voice acting doesn't do you in, the random clipping after each line will certainly be enough to make you want to perforate your own eardrums.
Sarah, this physics field trip is the highlight of my year.
Mine too, Byron.
I hope we're going to the planetarium again.
Oh, that was great. But wouldn't a trip to the power plant just be neato?
Anyway, I chose the physics minigame to begin with, which treated me to this wonderful little cutscene.
Ashley, there she is. There's Courtney. Let's get her.
Okay, people, find a seat and simmer down.
Ashley, I found her. But she's not going to be able to help us much. Why is that? Where is she? Well, she's out there and we're here heading for a full day of physics.
Yep, these are great games for real girls, aren't they? Not only have we taught them that stalking boys is okay, but we have to drill into their heads that learning science when you have a vagina is like so totally lame. And it's a golf minigame. Now, as much as I hate doing this shit, I will give the developers praise for not only designing some fairly cool looking mini golf courses, clearly inspired by their mini golf game in Rugrats Search for Reptar, but also throwing in some interesting little tidbits of information relevant to physics. Einstein's theory of relativity, Alexander Graham Bell and his telephone, action and reaction, blah blah blah. It's just a shame that it's kind of ruined by MKNA's repulsion towards going on a physics field trip. I feel like they could have got a lot of young girls who played this game interested in the sciences had they made out it was a fascinating subject. But you know those twins, it's all about fashion, flirting and their fannies. So I finished the golf course with a passable B grade and proceeded back to the school, where our good nerdy friend Byron had a piece of the missing note for us. However, I struggled to pay attention to this conversation because I was slightly disturbed by the JPEG model on the bus giving Mary-Kate evils.
I'll get you, my pretty.
The twins read out the new piece of the note like somebody having a stronk.
We hope that see you.
And then it's back inside the school for the tryouts minigame, where if the awful white girl moves and repeating dialogue doesn't do you in,
Hit, hit, hit. Spin, spin, spin.
the marching band deliberately making as much noise as possible, like an irritating younger sibling when you're on the phone, will be enough to finish you off.
Up. Down.
I'm obnoxious.
Another minigame down, another note in my possession, and it was time for photography. Now, this one shouldn't have been a problem. All you have to do is read the shot list, find the relevant person and take a photo of them. However, the game doesn't register you completing a shot unless you get said person front and center. And for some reason, this bitch right here refused to turn around and face the camera. I tried walking backwards and forwards, to the opposite side of her, I even left the classroom and went back in, but she would not react to my presence, causing me in desperation to take as many photos at as many angles as I could, before ultimately running out of film, and therefore failing the task and having to start over again. The final minigame I attempted before giving up on my dreams of ever finding out the identity of B was the history minigame. And look, it's mini-golf again! Seriously, what is with this game and mini-golf? Once again, the courses were fairly interesting in design, with locations such as the Egyptian pyramids, Stonehenge, and even the Great Wall of China. But this level right here, made me rage quit. The final game I attempted on my Mary-Kate and Ashley binge ended up being the most disappointing of the bunch for me, Winner's Circle. I mean, you cannot go wrong with girls and ponies, and yet the developers somehow managed to. For starters, this entry in the MKNA pile of doggy doo-doo that is their line of video games has no premise whatsoever. The most you get is a live-action cutscene showing the twins prancing around on their pretty horsies, backed up by music that I'm fairly certain can be found in a porno somewhere on the internet. And once you've fought your way past the memory card full issue, there is no doubt. Yeah, okay. Make one. Can I just play the fucking game? Okay, so make one! Why is it saying this? You'll realise just how bare bones Winner's Circle is. For example, your only options for character creation if you don't want to play as Melty Face or Twitchly is Bulgy Eyes Catgirl, Lucy Liu with too much lip filler, me having an allergic reaction, or Frida Kahlo. Once my monstrous creation had been brought to life and suitably outfitted, it was time to work on my horse. And I'm happy to say, as a once avid horse and pony lover, the game does use the correct terminology for coat colours and patterns. Something which made me so delighted, I ended up spending almost as much time deciding on a witty name for my horse and choosing the best colour than I did actually playing the goddamn game. After choosing the coat colour I felt best summed up my feelings towards the MK&A PS1 games, the one that made Harry Trotter look like he'd rolled in manure, I was ready to tackle whatever this game threw at me, which was apparently more poop, and not a lot of poop at that. Given I wasn't quite in the mood for a 3-day event just yet, I opted for adventure. Don't let the names fool you, they may sound fun, but there is no entertainment to be had while playing this game. I was quick to choose Free Ride as my first port of call, excited at the prospect of galloping across thickly wooded areas in the forest world, swimming leisurely out to sea in the island world, or maybe even leaping over a rocky chasm or two in either one. Unfortunately, I didn't get to experience any of that. I mean, this is less forest world, and more sparsely populated brown and green landmass with a few trees dotted here and there, with the piece de resistance being the short draw distance that brings with it a lovely pop-in effect on the local flora. In fact, I'm sure this is one of the levels from that Shrek PS1 game I played a few months ago. The island world wasn't much better in design. Less brown, sure, but also dotted with randomly placed trees, a short draw distance, and seemingly nothing to really do. Well, there are apparently these heart ribbon things to collect, one of which I found by interacting with the well in the forest, but that was the only one I came across on these two worlds. And coupled with the realization you cannot make your horse swim out to sea or leap over rocky chasms, only walk, trot, canter or gallop across a vast hilly world of nothingness, I rapidly lost interest in the free ride aspect of this game. So I moved on to the horse trials, and it's the same maps. I'm not even going to try and come up with something witty for this one. It's basically a timed solo race through various markers, with no real challenge whatsoever as you have a big pink arrow to tell you where to go next, and passing through said markers adds a ridiculous amount of seconds to the timer. So much so, I ended up finishing the trial with 1 minute and 47 seconds to spare. I started with 15 seconds. And then there was the horseshoe trial.
Your goal. 3, 2, 1. Yeehaw!
What's worse than having a massive open world filled with nothing, you say? How about having a massive open world filled with nothing and trying to track down 26 horseshoes with no indicator as to where they could possibly be, all before the 20-minute timer runs out? Clearly somebody in the development team hates children because I cannot see how this could have been justified as fair or suitable for a game intended to be played by small girls. The most shocking revelation, however, is that this also comes in a normal and hard mode, which I can only assume increases the amount of horseshoes you need to find on a particular world. It was by this point I was finally ready to call it quits on MK&A PS1 games, but I figured I couldn't leave it here without at least attempting the 3-day event. Well, I'll just tell you now.
That is one big pile of shit.
The event is split into 3 games: dressage, cross-country, and show jumping. And I know this is beginner's circle, but bloody hell, talk about drab. Dressage consists of pushing up or down on the analog stick to make your horse speed up or slow down, and occasionally hitting X to salute. That's it. Cross-country and show jumping are more or less the same as each other, with the objective being to guide your horse through markers or over jumps. Both were incredibly frustrating to finish, however, due to the fact I couldn't use the directional pad to turn my horse, only the analog stick. This would often cause me to accidentally speed up Harry Trotter, making him veer wildly out of control and ultimately miss a jump. Why are you clapping? I'm failing! Fortunately, I did manage to finish this entire trial with no real issues. It was beginners after all, and doing so rewarded me with this amazing static image. I hope you're proud of me now, Mum. I did try grooming my horse before completely giving up on Winner's Circle, hoping it would, if anything, be a relaxing task to make the 3 hours of suffering I had endured somewhat worthwhile. Sadly, grooming consisted of choosing an option from a list and watching your character do said chore for you, with no interaction on your part.
Let's get these knots out.
You know what? I think you've seen enough to make your own judgments. So, are any of these Mary-Kate and Ashley PS1 games worth playing? Not really. Okay, if you have a little girl who needs entertaining for an hour or two while you get on with housework or whatever, maybe. Crush Course, even with its insistence on throwing mini-golf into every nook and cranny it can, isn't that bad, I suppose. Winner's Circle, not really worth the effort to track down or even emulate like I did. I'm sure there are far better horse and pony riding games out there that you could entertain little ones with. So that just leaves Magical Mystery Mall. Now maybe if I'd played it on a first time basis, I wouldn't have been so scathing and I'd have a higher tolerance for MK&A shenanigans. But in my most humble opinion, the mini-games drag on for far too long, and the twins, in this instance at least, aren't exactly the best role models for little girls. They're rude to the store owner when she tries to warn them about the magical necklace.
Okay, well, be careful.
Yeah, right. Someone call the weirdo police.
They stalk two boys and take photos of them without their consent. And they place emphasis on the absolute horror that they won't be able to go shopping anymore, rather than the fact they just screwed over the lives of hundreds of other shoppers with their own stupidity. At least on my version that's the case, because there is no way on God's green earth that I'm ever going to pick up this game and play it a third time. So that's 3 Mary-Kate and Ashley PS1 games for all you wonderful viewers. Not exactly how I'd like to spend 3 hours of my afternoon, but you guys love it when I play these awful obscure games, and hey, if you're happy with the content, then I'm happy to make it. Hope you enjoyed the review, and if you did, please leave a like as it really helps me out. If you'd like to help me further, I do have a Patreon. Even the smallest donation of $1 goes a long way, and I really appreciate all the support you can give. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Shout out to supporters Calaxon, Thomas Hinton, Jeffrey Thomas, Ray Zach, Mr. Zugador, Ross Ward, Poplio the Destroyer, Merendor, Trevor, James Townsend, Artemis the Falcon, Hayley Thomas, Chris Morris, Sonic Ryan 9, Ross Hextall, and Zach Nightingale. Thank you once again, guys, for all the continued support on YouTube and on Patreon. If you are someone who can't afford to donate every month, but you just want to keep supporting me in whatever way you can, watching the video all the way through, leaving a like, sharing it around, that means so much to me, more than you could ever know. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Can't say I exactly want to spend my time playing Mary-Kate and Ashley games, but you know what? Ripping into them is pretty fun, I'll admit. Making the actual script and just adding in every horrible thing I can. Yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better. But yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I had fun making it. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in whatever I do next. So bye-bye!